She was more than just a cat. She was a symbol, a secret weapon in a high-stakes political game. But when a gang of ruthless bikers decided to humiliate her in public, they had no idea who she belonged to, or the storm they were about to unleash. How could one cat hold the key to a powerful campaign, and why did her disappearance send shockwaves through an entire community? Let us know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below and join the conversation. The park buzzed with life as volunteers and campaign workers hurried about, their hands full of banners, flyers, and coffee cups. The sun peeked through the trees, casting a warm glow over the sprawling rally setup. Tables lined with colorful pamphlets sat beneath a large tent, and the faint hum of a speaker system being tested filled the air. Amid the commotion, a sleek, regal-looking cat rested on a plush blanket spread over the lawn. Liberty, as she was fondly called, seemed unfazed by the chaos around her. Her pristine white coat shimmered in the sunlight, and her bright blue eyes surveyed the scene with an air of indifference. She was the picture of elegance, her collar adorned with a small gold pendant engraved with the word Liberty. Alex knelt beside her, gently brushing a few stray leaves off the blanket. "You're the star of the show, Libby," they murmured with a smile. Alex had spent months with Liberty, training her to stay calm in the unpredictable energy of public events. To anyone else, she was just a fancy cat. But to the campaign, Liberty was a carefully crafted symbol, a subtle, strategic choice to connect with voters on a personal level. The cat was featured in promotional material, with slogans like "Liberty for All," cleverly tying her name to broader political ideals. Not far from the tent, a low rumble of motorcycle engines broke through the chatter. Heads turned as a group of bikers rolled into the park, their leather jackets emblazoned with a snarling tiger claw insignia. The roar of their bikes disrupted the otherwise lively but peaceful atmosphere, and a few volunteers exchanged uneasy glances. The bikers parked near the edge of the rally area, their loud laughter carrying across the lawn as they leaned against their bikes, watching the setup with thinly veiled disdain. Liberty's ears twitched at the sound, and Alex noticed her shift uncomfortably on the blanket. "It's okay, girl," they said softly, stroking her head to soothe her. Alex glanced toward the bikers, their unease growing. The group hadn't done anything yet, but their presence felt like a shadow over the event. "Hey!" one of the bikers shouted, his voice dripping with mockery. "What's with the furball? Is she running for office, too?" His friends burst into laughter, one of them imitating a cat's meow. Alex stood, trying to ignore them, but the man wasn't done. "Looks like she thinks she's royalty or something." The bikers sauntered closer, their heavy boots crunching against the gravel path. Liberty hissed, her once calm demeanor faltering as she pressed herself closer to Alex's leg. "Back off," Alex said firmly, their voice steady but their heart pounding. "She's not bothering you." "Relax," another biker drawled, smirking as he squatted down to get a closer look at Liberty. "We're just admiring the princess here. What's her deal anyway?" "She's part of the campaign," Alex snapped, their patience wearing thin. "Just leave her alone." The first biker leaned in, grinning. "Oh, so she's important, huh? That makes this a lot more fun." He revved his bike's engine, the sudden roar making Liberty yowl and scramble to hide behind Alex. A third biker laughed, his voice loud and mocking. "Looks like she doesn't like us much. What's the matter, princess? Don't like the noise?" Alex glared at them, shielding Liberty as best they could. The bikers' taunts grew louder, their presence becoming more of a spectacle. A few campaign workers approached cautiously, but no one seemed willing to intervene directly. "I'm serious," Alex said, their voice rising. "Step away from her, now." The lead biker rolled his eyes. "Chill out, it's just a joke." But his grin betrayed something more mischievous. With a sudden movement, he reached down, his hand brushing Liberty's fur before Alex could react. Liberty bolted, her quick movements sending her darting a few feet away, only for the biker to snatch her up with surprising speed. He held her awkwardly, ignoring her squirming and yowling protests. "Put her down," Alex shouted, their voice sharp with panic. The biker chuckled, swinging a leg over his bike while holding Liberty tightly. "Don't worry, we're just taking her for a little spin," he said. the smirk on his face deepening as he revved the engine. Before anyone could stop him, the bike roared to life, and he sped off with Liberty clinging to his jacket in terror. For a moment, the park stood frozen in shock. Alex's breath caught in their throat as they watched the biker disappear down the road, Liberty's cries fading with the distance. The laughter of his friends rang out behind him, filling the stunned silence. Then, with a rush of adrenaline, Alex snapped into action. They turned to the nearest group of volunteers. "Call security, and someone get the police." Their voice wavered between anger and fear. "We need to get her back, now." Alex's feet moved instinctively, their heart pounding as they bolted toward the direction the biker had gone. The roar of his engine was already fading, leaving behind only the mocking laughter of the other bikers. Panic coursed through Alex's veins, but determination quickly took its place. Liberty wasn't just a campaign tool, she was family. They couldn't let her fall into the hands of those goons. Behind them, a crowd of volunteers and onlookers began to gather, their murmurs growing louder. "Did they really just steal the cat?" someone asked incredulously. Another added, "They'll get caught, they have to." One of the senior campaign managers rushed over, his face pale. "Alex, what happened?" His voice was tight with concern, though his eyes darted toward the gathering group of bikers, as if sizing up the threat. "They took her," Alex said breathlessly, pointing toward the road. "They just picked her up and sped off." The manager ran a hand through his hair, clearly trying to stay composed. "We can't let this escalate. The press will spin it out of control if they find out." He motioned toward a security guard, who was already on his phone. "Call the police. Report the theft." But Alex shook their head, fists clenching. "There's no time to wait. Who knows what they'll do to her?" The memory of Liberty's wide, terrified eyes burned in their mind. Without another word, they sprinted toward the parking area where their car was parked, determination etched on their face. Meanwhile, the remaining bikers seemed unfazed by the chaos they'd caused. They lounged near their motorcycles, exchanging smug grins and lighting cigarettes. Alex felt a surge of anger as they passed by but knew better than to confront them. Not yet. There was only one priority now: getting Liberty back. The engine of Alex's old sedan sputtered to life as they floored the gas, tires skidding on the gravel before gripping the road. The rally grounds disappeared in the rearview mirror as Alex raced through the streets of the town, their eyes scanning every corner for the flash of a leather jacket or the white of Liberty's fur. They knew the bikers wouldn't have gone far. There wasn't enough time to disappear completely. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, the adrenaline and fear blurring together. Alex's thoughts raced as fast as the car. What if Liberty was hurt? What if they had no intention of returning her at all? Then, just as their hope was beginning to falter, Alex spotted it. A motorcycle parked outside a dilapidated gas station at the edge of town. The rider leaned casually against the wall, sipping from a can of soda, and Alex's blood ran cold as they noticed Liberty's carrier, her custom-quilted travel bag, discarded carelessly beside him. Liberty wasn't inside. Alex pulled the car into a nearby alley, parking out of sight before stepping out cautiously. Their heart raced, but their minds sharpened. This wasn't a situation they could charge into blindly. As much as they wanted to storm the gas station and demand Liberty back, it was obvious they were outmatched. The biker had size and numbers on his side. Alex needed a plan. Glancing at their phone, Alex pulled up the contact for the campaign's head of security. "Sam," they said in a low voice when he picked up, "I found one of them. He's at the gas station on Lincoln. Liberty's carrier is here, but I don't see her." Sam's voice was calm, steady, a stark contrast to Alex's frantic tone. "Stay there. Don't approach him alone. I'll send someone." "No time," Alex hissed. "I'll handle this." "Alex, don't—" But Alex hung up, pocketing the phone. The thought of Liberty scared and alone somewhere pushed them forward, overriding their better judgment. They crouched low, slipping through the alley toward the gas station. Every step felt like a gamble, their breath shallow as they neared the biker. The man didn't seem to notice them, his attention focused on his phone as he leaned against the wall. Alex could hear the faint sound of music playing from his earbuds, masking their approach. The carrier lay just a few feet away, empty but intact. Alex's heart sank further as they realized Liberty must have been removed and possibly taken somewhere else. Summoning their courage, Alex stepped closer, a plan beginning to form. If they could grab the carrier and interrogate the biker without being seen by his friends, they might have a chance of finding Liberty. Their hand reached out, trembling slightly as they wrapped their fingers around the carrier's handle. Just as they began to pull it back, the man's eyes snapped up, locking onto Alex with an amused sneer. "Well, well," he said, pulling out his earbuds. "Looks like someone's lost their little princess." Alex froze, every muscle in their body tensing as the biker took a step forward, cracking his knuckles. "You've got guts, showing up here alone," he added, his tone mocking. "But you're way out of your league." Alex's pulse quickened as the biker loomed closer, his smirk widening with every step. The carrier felt like a lead weight in their hand, but they held onto it tightly, refusing to let go. "Where's Liberty?" Alex demanded, their voice steady despite the fear bubbling under the surface. The biker laughed, a low, menacing sound that echoed in the quiet gas station lot. "Liberty? Oh, you mean your little furball? She's fine. For now." He tilted his head, clearly enjoying the tension. "Depends on how much you care to get her back." Alex's jaw clenched. "She's not just some cat. You don't understand." "Understand?" the biker interrupted, stepping even closer until he was towering over Alex. "What I understand is you lot thinking you can waltz into town, throw your fancy rallies, and act like you're better than the rest of us." His voice dropped, his grin fading. "It's about time someone knocked you down a peg." Alex felt the heat rising in their chest, anger replacing the initial fear. "This isn't about politics," they shot back. "This is about an innocent animal. You're using her to make some kind of twisted point." The biker shrugged casually, his leather jacket creaking with the motion. "Maybe. Or maybe I just don't like being told what to do. Either way, you're not getting her back so easily." Alex's mind raced, trying to buy time. If the biker thought they were alone, he might let his guard down. "What do you want?" they asked, keeping their voice calm even as their grip tightened on the carrier. "Money?" "Fine. Just tell me where she is." The biker's eyes gleamed with amusement. "Money? Nah, this ain't about that. This is about fun. Watching you squirm? That's worth more than cash." Before Alex could respond, the rumble of more motorcycles approaching broke through the tense standoff. 3 more bikers rolled into the lot, their headlights cutting through the dim evening light. Alex's stomach sank as they realized reinforcements had arrived. The odds were growing worse by the second. The leader turned to his companions, jerking a thumb toward Alex. "Look who came to play hero," he said with a chuckle. "Think they've got what it takes?" The others laughed, one of them dismounting and cracking his knuckles as he walked toward Alex. "Doesn't look like much to me. This one might actually cry." Alex took a step back, their free hand instinctively going to their pocket where their phone was. They needed help, fast. But before they could make a move, the sound of a car engine roaring into the lot drew everyone's attention. A sleek black SUV skidded to a stop, its headlights blinding the group. The doors flew open, and 2 figures stepped out. Sam, the campaign's head of security, and a local police officer Alex hadn't seen before. Relief flooded Alex's chest as Sam strode forward, his presence immediately commanding attention. "Step away," Sam barked, his voice firm and unwavering. "Now." The bikers hesitated, glancing at each other. The leader's smirk faltered, but he quickly recovered. "And who are you supposed to be?" he sneered. "The cat police?" The officer stepped forward, his hand resting on the baton at his side. "I suggest you think very carefully about your next move," he said, his tone cold and authoritative. "We've received complaints about theft and harassment. Don't make this harder than it already is." The tension hung thick in the air as the bikers exchanged glances. The leader's bravado wavered under the weight of Sam's glare, but he still managed to scoff. "Fine," he said, throwing up his hands in mock surrender. "Take your stupid carrier, but the cat? She's long gone." Alex felt their hearts sink, the brief glimmer of hope fading. "Where is she?" they demanded, stepping forward despite Sam's warning look. The biker grinned again, enjoying the moment. "Wouldn't you like to know?" he said before turning back to his bike. "Good luck finding her, though. She's probably already halfway to the next county by now." As the bikers mounted their motorcycles and sped off, Alex clenched their fists, frustration bubbling to the surface. Sam placed a steady hand on their shoulder. "We'll get her back," he said firmly. "But we need to be smart about this." Alex nodded, their mind racing with possibilities. Liberty was out there somewhere and time was running out. But one thing was certain. They weren't giving up until she was safe. The silence left by the retreating motorcycles was deafening. Alex stood in the dim gas station lot, clutching Liberty's empty carrier, as a swirl of emotions overtook them: anger, fear, and an unyielding determination. Sam remained calm, already pulling out his phone to coordinate next steps, while the officer scanned the area, his face set in a grim expression. Alex turned to Sam, their voice tight with urgency. "We have to move now. Every second she's out there." "I know," Sam interrupted, his voice low but firm. "But rushing in without a plan isn't going to help her. We need to think this through." He turned to the officer. "What's the fastest way to track these guys down?" The officer frowned, his eyes following the faint trail of dust kicked up by the bikers. "They're locals. Most of them hang around a bar called Roadhog's Den on the outskirts. If the cat's still with them, that's where you'll find her." He paused, his gaze shifting to Alex. "But this group doesn't scare easily. You go in alone, you won't come out with what you're looking for." Alex clenched their fists, frustration brimming. "Then what's the plan? Sit here and wait for them to hurt her? She's already terrified. Who knows what they'll do next?" Sam placed a hand on Alex's shoulder, his tone softer now. "We're not waiting, but charging into their turf without backup is a bad idea. Trust me, Alex. We'll handle this the right way." Alex pulled away, pacing in short, agitated steps. Every moment felt like an eternity. Liberty's face, wide-eyed and panicked, flashed in their mind, and they couldn't shake the image. Finally they stopped, exhaling sharply. "Fine, but I'm not just sitting here. If there's anything I can do, tell me." Sam nodded, appreciating their resolve. "We'll need leverage. If these guys have been causing trouble around town, there's bound to be dirt on them. Illegal activities, complaints from locals, something we can use to make them talk. While I handle the logistics, you focus on that. Ask around. Somebody must know more about them." The officer chimed in, his voice measured. "Start with the businesses near the rally site. These bikers have a reputation for pushing people around. If they've done it there, you'll hear about it." Without wasting another second, Alex jumped into action. The rally grounds weren't far, and they could cover the distance quickly by car. They threw one last glance at Sam and the officer before speeding off, their determination burning brighter with each passing second. The rally site was quieter now, the earlier buzz replaced by pockets of workers cleaning up and dismantling the day's setup. Alex parked hastily and jogged toward the tents, their eyes scanning for familiar faces. A group of volunteers sat near the food trucks, their expressions somber as they murmured about the incident. "Alex!" one of them called out, standing as they approached. "Did you find her?" "Not yet," Alex replied, their voice clipped. "But I need your help. Do you know anything about those bikers? Have they been here before? Harassed anyone?" The volunteer, a young woman with a clipboard still in hand, nodded hesitantly. "They've been hanging around for weeks. Mostly just making noise, revving their engines, but it's gotten worse lately. A couple of vendors said they refused to pay for food and threatened anyone who tried to stop them." Another volunteer chimed in, an older man with a deep scowl. "They've shaken down a few of the local businesses, too. I heard the bakery down the street had to close early last week because of them." Alex's eyes narrowed. "Do you know the bakery owner? Can I talk to them?" The older man nodded, pointing toward a small brick building visible from the park. "Her name's Carla. She's usually here selling pastries during the rallies, but she left early today. Said she didn't feel safe." Alex didn't waste another moment, sprinting toward the bakery. The streets were quieter now, the fading sunlight casting long shadows over the pavement. When they reached the shop, the lights inside were still on, and a small bell jingled as they pushed the door open. Behind the counter, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes looked up, startled. "We're closed," she said quickly. But her tone softened when she recognized Alex. "Oh, it's you. You're with the rally, aren't you?" Alex nodded, catching their breath. "Carla, I need your help. It's about those bikers. They've taken Liberty." Carla's face darkened, her hands gripping the edge of the counter. "Those scum," she muttered. "What happened?" Alex quickly explained, their words tumbling out in a rush. Carla listened intently, her expression hardening with every detail. When Alex finished, she sighed heavily. "They've been a plague on this town for months. They think they own the place. But I might have something that could help you." She disappeared into the back room for a moment, returning with a small, battered notebook. "This is where I've been keeping track of all their visits. Dates, times, what they said, what they did. I didn't know what else to do, so I wrote it all down. If you need proof of their behavior, it's in here." Alex took the notebook, their hands trembling slightly. "This could be exactly what we need. Thank you, Carla." "Just promise me you'll make them pay," Carla said, her voice shaking with emotion. "They've hurt too many people. And now they've gone after an innocent animal. Enough is enough." Alex nodded firmly. "We'll stop them." I swear. With the notebook in hand, Alex raced back to their car, hope flickering to life once more. The pieces were starting to come together, but they knew the hardest part was still ahead. Liberty was out there, waiting, and Alex wouldn't rest until she was safe. Alex drove back to the gas station where Sam and the officer waited, gripping the notebook tightly. Their thoughts swirled as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of deep orange and purple. The notebook felt heavier than it looked, not because of its weight, but because of the burden it carried. Proof of the bikers' reign of terror, and possibly the key to bringing Liberty home. As Alex pulled into the lot, Sam approached with his usual composed demeanor, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of impatience. "You were gone longer than I expected," he said. "Did you find anything?" Alex stepped out of the car and held up the notebook. Carla from the bakery's been keeping track of everything those bikers have done, dates, incidents, even names. It's all here." Sam took the notebook, flipping through it quickly, his lips pressed into a thin line as he skimmed the detailed entries. "This is good," he said finally, glancing up. "Really good. If we can cross-reference this with police reports, we might have enough leverage to corner them. And if they think we've got evidence that could put them away, they might talk." The officer leaned over, looking at the notebook with interest. "These match up with a few complaints we've received. It's more than enough to start pressing charges, assuming we can catch them in the act or get them to confess." Alex stepped closer, their frustration simmering. "What about Liberty? They admitted they still have her. We don't have time to play games." Sam placed a steadying hand on Alex's shoulder. "We're not playing games. But we need to do this right, or they'll slip through our fingers. And so will she." The officer nodded. "We need to draw them out. If we confront them at their bar, they'll have the upper hand. But if we can get them away from their territory, they'll be less organized and more likely to make mistakes." Sam glanced at Alex, his expression thoughtful. "You're the one they've been targeting. They know you're desperate. If we use that to our advantage, we can set a trap." Alex's stomach tightened. "You're saying I should bait them?" "I'm saying they've underestimated you," Sam said firmly. "If you show up at the bar looking like you're ready to make a deal, or desperate enough to give in, they'll let their guard down. Meanwhile, we'll have backup in place to handle the rest." The officer chimed in, his tone cautious. "It's risky, but it could work. These guys aren't known for their subtlety. They're more likely to boast than to play it safe." Alex hesitated, the weight of the plan sinking in. They hated the idea of putting themselves in the middle of danger, but the thought of Liberty alone and scared was worse. Finally, they nodded. "Fine, I'll do it. But you'd better be ready when things go south." "We will," Sam assured them, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "Let's go over the plan." The plan was simple but risky. Alex would drive to Roadhog's den and confront the bikers, using the notebook as leverage. They would pretend to offer a deal, silence, in exchange for Liberty's safe return. Meanwhile, Sam and the officer would position themselves nearby, ready to move in as soon as the bikers incriminated themselves or showed signs of aggression. As Alex approached the bar later that evening, the nerves hit like a tidal wave. The bar loomed in the distance, its flickering neon sign casting eerie shadows on the gravel lot. Motorcycles lined the front, their chrome gleaming under the dim light. The muffled sounds of raucous laughter and clinking glasses seeped through the cracked windows, a stark reminder of what waited inside. They parked a safe distance away, their hands gripping the steering wheel tightly for a moment before letting go. "You can do this," they murmured to themselves, grabbing the notebook from the passenger seat. "It's for Liberty." With a deep breath, Alex stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance. Each step felt heavier than the last, but they forced themselves forward, their resolve hardening. The door creaked as they pushed it open, the smell of stale beer and smoke hitting them like a wall. Inside, the bar was just as rough as they'd imagined. Worn wooden tables, mismatched chairs, and a haze of cigarette smoke filled the room. The bikers were clustered near the back, their loud voices dominating the space. The leader, the one who had taken Liberty, sat at the center of the group, his legs sprawled out and a smug grin on his face. Alex swallowed hard, their grip tightening on the notebook as they approached the group. The noise died down as the bikers noticed them, their expressions shifting from amusement to curiosity. Well, the leader drawled, leaning back in his chair. "Look who decided to join us. What's the matter? Couldn't stay away?" Alex ignored the taunt, meeting his gaze with a steady glare. "I'm here for Liberty," they said, their voice strong despite the hammering of their heart. "I know what you've been doing, and I have proof." The leader raised an eyebrow, his smirk deepening. "Proof, huh? Of what? That we're better at keeping your precious kitty than you are?" His companions laughed, but Alex didn't waver. They slammed the notebook onto the table, the sound cutting through the laughter. "Proof of everything. Extortion, harassment, theft. This is enough to ruin you and your little operation." The leader's smile faltered for a fraction of a second before returning, sharper this time. "You've got guts, I'll give you that. But you think waving a little book around is going to scare me?" "It should," Alex shot back. "Because I'm not alone, and if you don't give her back, you'll find out just how much trouble you're in." The room fell silent, the tension thick as the bikers exchanged glances. Alex's heart raced, but they held their ground, praying Sam and the officer were ready for what came next. The silence in the bar stretched taut, like a rope about to snap. Alex's breath was steady, but every nerve in their body was on high alert. The biker's leader leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table as he flipped through the notebook with exaggerated nonchalance. His smirk returned, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "This little scrapbook of yours is cute," he said, holding up the notebook. "But you think this is going to make a difference? You think anyone cares about a few late-night pranks and unpaid tabs?" His voice was sharp, but Alex could sense the edge of uncertainty creeping in. Alex crossed their arms, refusing to look away. "It's not just pranks, and you know it. There's enough in there to get the police looking a lot closer at you and this place. And I'm guessing you've got more to hide than bad behavior." The leader's grin faltered again, and one of the other bikers shifted uneasily in his seat. Alex pressed forward, their confidence growing. "Give Liberty back and this doesn't have to get worse. You're already in deep. You don't want to make it any harder for yourself." The leader's expression darkened, his hand gripping the edge of the notebook. For a moment, Alex thought he might snap it in two. Instead, he tossed it back onto the table, his smirk replaced with a cold, calculating look. "You're pretty brave for someone in over their head," he said, his voice low and threatening. "But you're not walking out of here with that cat." Before Alex could respond, another biker, a younger man with a nervous energy, spoke up. "Come on, man," he said, glancing at the leader. "Why don't we just give it back? It's just a cat. We don't need this heat." The leader turned on him sharply, his glare cutting through the haze of smoke. "You shut your mouth," he barked, his voice booming. We're not giving in to some do-gooder who thinks they can waltz in here and tell us what to do." Alex's eyes flicked to the younger biker, sensing a potential crack in the group's unity. "He's right," they said, seizing the moment. "This isn't worth it. Liberty's just a cat. She doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle of this." For a moment, the younger biker hesitated, his gaze darting between Alex and the leader. But the moment passed quickly as the leader stood towering over the table. "Enough," he snarled. "You think you got leverage? You've got nothing." The tension in the room shifted, the bikers moving as one, subtly closing in around Alex. Their laughter was gone, replaced by a predatory silence. Alex's stomach twisted, but they refused to back down. Before the situation could escalate further, the door to the bar creaked open. The sudden noise drew everyone's attention, and Alex felt a wave of relief as Sam and the officer stepped inside. Their presence was a lifeline in the growing chaos. The officer spoke first, his voice calm but commanding. "Evening, gentlemen. We've received a few complaints about this establishment. Mind if we take a look around?" The bikers froze, their bravado momentarily faltering. The leader's glare shifted to the newcomers, his jaw tightening. "We're not doing anything illegal," he said, his tone defensive. Sam stepped forward, his gaze steady. "Then you won't mind answering a few questions, starting with where the cat is." The leader scoffed, crossing his arms. "I don't know what you're talking about." The officer reached into his pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. "We've got a witness statement tying you to a stolen animal. If you cooperate, we can make this easier for everyone. If not, we'll have to take a closer look at what's going on here." The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, the room growing tenser by the second. The younger biker, clearly rattled, took a step back. "Look, she's in the storage room," he blurted out, his voice cracking. "We didn't hurt her, I swear." The leader rounded on him, fury blazing in his eyes. "You idiot!" he hissed, his composure slipping. Alex surged forward before the leader could regain control, their voice cutting through the chaos. "Where is she? Take me to her now." The younger biker nodded quickly, his hands raised in surrender. "Follow me," he said, ignoring the furious glare of the leader as he led Alex toward a door at the back of the bar. The storage room was dimly lit and cluttered, with shelves of dusty bottles and broken furniture piled haphazardly. In the corner, on a makeshift bed of rags, was Liberty. Her white fur was streaked with dirt, but she perked up at the sight of Alex, letting out a weak but hopeful meow. "Liberty," Alex breathed, rushing to her side. They scooped her up gently, checking her over for injuries. To their relief, she seemed unharmed, though visibly shaken. "I've got you, girl. You're safe now." The sound of heavy footsteps behind them brought Alex back to the present. Sam and the officer appeared in the doorway, their presence a reminder that the danger wasn't entirely over. "We'll handle the rest," Sam said quietly. "Take her and get out of here." Alex nodded, holding Liberty close as they made their way back through the bar. The bikers glared but didn't move to stop them, the weight of the officer's presence keeping them in check. The leader's eyes burned with anger, his jaw tight as he watched Alex leave. Outside, the cool night air was a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere inside. Alex took a deep breath, relief flooding through them as Liberty nuzzled against their chest. For the first time in hours, they felt like things were going to be okay. But as they loaded Liberty into the car, a lingering unease crept in. The leader's parting glare had been full of malice, a silent promise that this wasn't over. And Alex couldn't shake the feeling that the fight for Liberty's safety had only just begun. The drive away from Roadhog's den was quiet, save for Liberty's soft, contented purring as she nestled in Alex's lap. Her small body trembled occasionally, a reminder of the terrifying ordeal she had endured. Alex stroked her fur gently, whispering soothing words, though their own nerves were still frayed. The adrenaline that had propelled them through the confrontation was fading, replaced by a heavy exhaustion and a gnawing sense of unease. Sam followed close behind in the black SUV, the officer beside him. Their presence was reassuring, but Alex couldn't shake the image of the biker leader's glare, his eyes burning with anger as they left. The threat hung in the back of their mind, a shadow they couldn't ignore. They pulled into the parking lot of the local police station, where Alex was greeted by Sam and the officer. Liberty stayed pressed against Alex's chest as they stepped out of the car, her small claws lightly gripping their jacket. Sam gestured for them to follow, his face as composed as ever. Inside, the station bustled with quiet activity. Officers moved with purpose, the air thick with the hum of radios and the occasional rustle of paperwork. Sam led Alex to a small conference room, where Carla, the bakery owner, was already waiting. She looked up as they entered, her face softening with relief when she saw Liberty. "You found her," Carla said, standing as Alex sat down across from her. "Thank goodness, I was worried sick." Alex nodded, their voice low. "She's shaken, but she's okay. They had her locked in some storage room." Their hand instinctively ran over Liberty's fur, as much to calm themselves as to comfort her. The officer joined them, his expression serious. "We've got enough to press charges," he said, holding up the notebook. "And with your witness accounts and the confession from that younger biker, we can start building a solid case. But we need to be careful. This isn't just about a stolen cat anymore." Alex frowned. "What do you mean?" Sam leaned against the table, his arms crossed. "That gang isn't just a bunch of troublemakers. They've been using their bar as a hub for illegal activity, extortion, smuggling, and who knows what else. Taking Liberty was probably their way of sending a message, but now we've rattled them. They won't take this lying down." Alex felt their stomach drop. "So what do we do? Just let them get away with it?" "Not a chance," the officer said firmly. "We've already called in reinforcements to keep an eye on the bar and the gang. They'll know we're watching, which should keep them in check for now." Sam nodded. "We'll also work with local businesses to make sure they feel safe enough to speak out. The more people willing to testify, the stronger our case will be." Alex glanced down at Liberty, who blinked up at them with trusting eyes. "And what about her? What if they come after her again?" The room fell quiet for a moment before Carla spoke, her voice filled with conviction. "We won't let that happen. This community is stronger than a group of bullies. If they come for Liberty, they'll have to go through all of us." Her words struck a chord, and Alex felt a flicker of hope. They weren't alone in this fight. The gang might have tried to scare them, but they had underestimated the strength of a united community. Later that night, Alex returned to their temporary housing with Liberty in tow. The small, cozy apartment felt like a sanctuary after the chaos of the day. Liberty immediately claimed the softest spot on the couch, curling up with her tail tucked around her. Alex watched her for a moment, their chest tightening with a mix of relief and guilt. "You didn't deserve any of that," they murmured, sitting beside her. "None of it. But I promise, no one's ever going to hurt you again." Liberty let out a small chirp, her ears twitching as Alex stroked her fur. For the first time since the ordeal began, Alex allowed themselves to relax, sinking into the cushions as the weight of the day finally settled in. Sleep came quickly, but it was restless, filled with fractured dreams of dark alleys, roaring engines, and shadowy threats. The next morning brought a sense of cautious normalcy. Alex awoke to find Liberty perched on the windowsill, watching birds flit between the trees outside. Her posture was relaxed, a sign that she was beginning to recover. Alex smiled, grateful for the small victory. As they sipped their coffee, their phone buzzed with a message from Sam. "Meeting at the station at noon, updates on the case." Alex's shoulders tensed. They knew the battle wasn't over. The gang wouldn't take the loss lightly, and the warning from the night before still echoed in their mind. But as they looked at Liberty, who turned to meet their gaze with unwavering trust, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever came next, they were ready. By the time Alex arrived at the station, the atmosphere was electric. Sam, the officer, and a few other members of the community were gathered in the same conference room, their faces set with determination. On the table was a growing pile of evidence, photos, reports, and statements from other locals who had come forward. Sam motioned for Alex to sit. "We've made progress," he said. "The gang's on edge, and we're getting closer to shutting them down. but they're not going to go quietly. The officer added, "We've received reports that they're planning something. Probably a show of force to try and scare everyone back into silence." Alex's jaw tightened. "What do we do?" Sam leaned forward, his voice steady. "We stand together, and this time, we make sure they know we're not afraid." As plans were laid out, Alex felt a spark of hope reignite. The gang might have started this fight, but they wouldn't be the ones to finish it. Liberty's ordeal had brought the community together, and now, united, they were ready to take a stand. The sun was just beginning to set as Alex and Sam walked out of the station, their plans solidified, but the air still thick with tension. Around them, the town had begun to stir with the first hints of evening activity. Shopkeepers were closing up, and families strolled along the streets, unaware of the brewing storm. Alex glanced at Liberty, now nestled securely in a travel crate with soft bedding and plenty of water. Her calm demeanor gave them strength. "Are you sure this is going to work?" Alex asked, their voice low as they turned to Sam. "What if they retaliate before we can act?" "They might try," Sam admitted, his tone even. "But we've taken steps to make sure they won't get far. Officers are stationed near the bar, and we've got eyes on the streets. The gang knows the heat is on. If they make a move, they'll only dig themselves deeper." Alex nodded, but the knot in their stomach remained. They couldn't shake the leader's words from the night before, nor the venom in his glare. Whatever was coming, it wouldn't be easy. "I just don't want Liberty to get caught in the middle of this again," they said softly, glancing at the crate. "She won't," Sam said firmly. "We've got her covered. You've done your part, Alex. Now let us handle the rest." That night, the town's stillness was broken by the rumble of motorcycles echoing down empty streets. Alex peered out their apartment window, their heart racing as they caught sight of a small group of bikers idling near the edge of the neighborhood. They weren't making a scene, not yet, but their presence was unmistakable. Alex's phone buzzed and they snatched it up, their pulse quickening at the sight of Sam's name on the screen. "They're here," Alex said immediately, keeping their voice low. "We see them," Sam replied. "Officers are moving into position. Don't engage, Alex. Stay inside and keep Liberty safe." Alex nodded, even though Sam couldn't see them. "Just be careful," they said, their voice tight. "Always," Sam replied before the line went dead. Alex turned back to the window, their hands trembling slightly as they watched the bikers linger. Minutes felt like hours as the tension built, the hum of engines cutting through the night like a warning. Then, in an instant, the stillness shattered. Police cruisers emerged from side streets, their lights flashing as officers stepped out with quiet precision. The bikers started, their engines roaring to life as they scrambled to escape, but the officers moved quickly, cutting off their exits and corralling them into a narrow street. Alex exhaled sharply, relief flooding through them as they watched the scene unfold. Sam's voice rang in their head, "We've got this." And for the first time in days, they believed it. By the time the dust settled, the bikers had been subdued, their motorcycles lined up along the curb under the watchful eyes of the officers. The leader was among them, his face a storm of fury and defiance as he was placed in handcuffs. Sam stood nearby, his expression unreadable as he spoke with the officer in charge. Alex stayed by the window, their eyes fixed on the scene below. The sight of the leader in cuffs brought a wave of vindication, but it was tempered by the knowledge that the fight wasn't entirely over. Justice would take time, and the scars of the ordeal would linger. The next morning, Sam arrived at Alex's apartment, his presence a welcome sight. Liberty greeted him with a cautious but curious look, her tail flicking as she watched him set a file down on the table. "It's over," Sam said simply. "The leader and his crew are being charged with multiple counts: extortion, theft, harassment, and now resisting arrest. The bar's being shut down, and we've got enough evidence to keep them off the streets for a long time." Alex let out a shaky breath, their shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. "Thank you," they said, their voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Sam smiled faintly. "You did more than you realize, Alex. You brought the community together. That's not something they'll forget anytime soon." Alex glanced at Liberty, who had climbed onto the couch and was now watching them with her steady, unflinching gaze. "I just wanted to protect her," Alex said softly, reaching out to scratch behind Liberty's ears. "She didn't deserve any of this." "No, she didn't," Sam agreed. "But because of her, a lot of people found their courage. Sometimes, it takes someone or something special to remind us what we're capable of." Later that day, Alex walked through the streets of the town with Liberty by their side, her leash secure and her steps confident. People stopped to greet them, offering smiles and words of encouragement. The bakery owner waved from her shop, and the volunteers from the rally gave thumbs up as Alex passed by. Liberty paused to sit on the edge of the park, her gaze sweeping over the familiar scene. Alex knelt beside her, their hand resting lightly on her back. "We did it, Libby," they said quietly. "We're safe now." As the sun set over the town, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, Alex and Liberty remained there, a symbol of resilience and the quiet strength it takes to stand up against fear. The ordeal had tested them in ways they never expected, but it had also shown them the power of a united community and the unbreakable bond between a person and the animal they loved.